In this PowerPoint, we're briefly going to talk about research topics and some research tips, just from my perspective. I hope that you'll take a chance to look at the library research tools and go through those tutorials to understand how to use the library resources in order to find the research that you're going to need throughout this class. Even though you may pick a topic right away, you may find that as you start getting into the research, you may need to expand your topic a little bit or even pull back and really refine your parameters in order to find enough research. And that's okay, but I want you to have a starting point as you start to move forward. I also want you to think about the purpose of your paper. What is it that you want to know about? What is it you're trying to learn about? Because that's really going to guide the topic that you're going to select. So think both big picture and small, and I'll explain a little bit more in a second about the types of research questions and the types of keywords that you can use in order to find your research. As we start talking about the final research paper, please remember that this is not actually a research study. You're not going out and doing any interventions at this point. Right now we're just talking about a pretty extensive literature review where you're going to pick a topic and look at the research on that topic. You're going to need to find 5 intervention research studies on the topic that you choose. And by intervention research, we're looking at something that has been tried in school settings in an effort to make a change. It has to be peer-reviewed, which means it goes through a process where other educators in the field read these articles and make sure that the research is conducted in a way that has reliability, validity, that it adds something to the research. And through that process, we really do sift out all of the kind of junk, if you will. It has to be a research article as well. There are a lot of really great practitioner articles out there, kind of a how-to, if you will, on teaching, but we don't want those. Practitioner articles frequently will give you a case study. They will explain something that is happening within a classroom and give you some strategies for fixing that problem. That's not research. A research article is going to have a methods section. It's going to have a data analysis section. It's going to be quantitative, qualitative. It might be a single subject design or action research. So we're looking for research articles. You don't have parameters on dates for this particular paper, but you do need to justify why you've selected the date range that you're using. So if you decide to use articles from 1960, you need to be able to explain to me why you're going so far back in the research. If you're only choosing articles from the past 5 years, you need to explain that as well. And it's important to remember that research builds, and things that are more current are going to be more appropriate for this type of study. However, that is not to say that all of your articles have to be within the past 5 years. You may pick a topic area that just doesn't lend itself to current articles, and that's okay too. But you need to be ready to justify why you've picked the range that you did. The library tutorials will help you find ways to search through the database, but I want you to understand that you also have to really be careful about the keywords you're choosing. So let's say that you're interested in figuring out what reading intervention is best. You want to know, what kind of reading intervention should I be using in my classroom as a future teacher? When you go to do your searches, you're not just going to be able to put in reading intervention. That is going to give you tens of thousands of hits on research. You need to get more specific. So you need to get specific about which interventions. What kind of interventions do you want to learn about? Do you want to learn about whole language? Do you want to learn about phonics? Do you want to learn about a blended approach? Is there a specific intervention that you've heard of that you want to know more about? And then what kind of populations are you looking at? Are you looking at the elementary level, secondary level? Do you want to look at students who are English language learners or in special education? Narrow that down. And then what grade level? Something like reading can be huge, and you have a lot of research that's targeted specifically at first graders, because we have a lot of first grade literacy programs that are targeted at that level. And then if you want to know about a reading intervention that's best for what? Best for comprehension, best for fluency, best for word identification. What do you want to know? So this is where you're going to start using keywords. So if this were your topic, you might put in the keyword, you might put in reading intervention, but maybe you also put in elementary, and maybe you put in the word special education. And that will help you narrow down your topics. If you get too specific and you say Wilson reading, first grade, students with ELL, males, you're going to get very few hits, or you're going to get very few articles that really target what you want to learn about. So you can start big, but you need to know that you're going to need to narrow it down based on your keywords. If you said to me, I'm interested in whether or not class meetings help improve student behavior, I would encourage you to use the words class meetings, and I would encourage you to use the word classroom behavior. When you go through and do keywords, you can do the words and, or you can use the words or. So maybe when you're talking about class meetings, maybe you do class meetings, or maybe you think of another terminology that's also refers to class meetings. But again, you want to pick keywords that are very specific to exactly what you want to know about. And then you may need to play around with those keywords a little bit. If you're having trouble either narrowing down your topic, or if you just aren't getting the right kinds of articles that you're looking for, let me know and I'll help you with some of those keywords. You'll also find that when you go to the database, it may suggest other keywords for you. Use that. There's almost a thesaurus of keywords that auto-populates when you're doing your searches. Use some of those as well, because those will be really helpful for you. As you're going through your searches, it's important to keep track of the inclusionary and exclusionary criteria. So if you are finding articles and you want to focus on the past 5 years, part of your inclusionary criteria is going to be anything within, a 5-year time frame, so 2010 to 2015, and you'll let us know why you selected that. It may be that you want to solely focus on kindergarten through 2nd grade. Perhaps that's a really important area for you, and that's okay. Anything that you want to do in terms of your focus is fine, but you need to keep track of why you're keeping articles and why you are getting rid of them. If you're getting rid of articles because they don't fit into the grade levels that you're interested in learning more about, then you write that down. You're excluding those articles because they don't fit into the focus of your topic in terms of grade level. Perhaps you want to look at perspectives of students. So your inclusionary criteria becomes qualitative studies, and so your exclusionary criteria becomes anything quantitative or anything that is single subject. So it is okay to include or exclude any research based on any criteria you decide, but you do have to keep track of that. In our final research paper, you'll need to actually write that down as part of your methods about how you found your article. Essentially, I should be able to read your final paper and sit down at the library database and find the exact same articles you found, given the parameters that you've set up for your inclusionary and exclusionary criteria. It's also really important to make sure that you keep a list of what you're searching. So as you're going through and doing keywords, if you're going to be looking at word problems and secondary education, and you use the phrase word problems, and then you use and secondary, write that down. If then you go to word problems and secondary and computation, write that down. That way, as you begin searching or as you take a break and come back to it another day, you have a running list of everything that you've already put into the database so that you are not going back and wasting your time and plugging in the same words over and over again without realizing that you've already tried that combination of words. So keep track of all of those things. Keep track of your keywords. You're gonna need to have that in your paper as well, what keywords you used in order to find these articles, and keep track of your inclusionary and exclusionary criteria so that we have an understanding of what you decided to keep for your articles. If this is not something you're familiar with, if you're coming from a degree that does not do a lot of research, you need to let me know if you're struggling or you're having difficulty finding the research. That's what I'm here for, and it's really hard to differentiate in a course like this, especially when we're not face to face. So I need to know what it is you are struggling with. So keep me posted, let me know so that I can support you.